Great. All right, so we will get started here. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, July the 8th, and I apologize for starting late today. I'm actually working out of a different office, and so had to figure out some lighting and some stuff. So my apologies for being late there. So we are going to look at an equity calculation today. So what exactly does that mean, right? So we'll get into that. Now, of course, I do have to just do a quick welcome. So we're going to get started with the Money Matters today. My name is Hung Lu. I'm with Cash Property Inc. And, over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to walk through a calculation and hopefully you find it beneficial. I am hoping that these calls will help fellow accredited investors make sound decisions with their investments. So before you go and implement any of the stuff that I'm showing today, please go and just check with your lawyer, accountant, and your financial advisor, perhaps another real estate investor friend. Okay, so we're going to get into the equity calculations. And this is a big topic because there's, always that debate about, okay, is cash flow better than equity? And, when should you consider one over the other? Okay, so my personal preference is to have both. You want the cash flow and you want the equity. So basically, I want my cake and to eat it too. Okay. So when I do real estate, I want to look at the concept of camping, which is cash flow, appreciation, and mortgage pay down, increasing net worth for generations. So that's the abbreviation around camping. And so the appreciation portion can be passive or forced appreciation. So let's go into a sample calculation as to what that looks like. Okay, and I want to make sure that I am recording. I think Zoom is using a bit of a new platform, so I'm hoping that everything is working well here. So now let me just minimize my screen and I will share. Oh, here we go. Okay, so let me share a screen. Okay, so this is an Excel sheet. If I can find my Excel sheet, there we go. Okay, so this is an Excel sheet that I built it out. So it may, I think there is still one error that I came across already. So take it with a grain of salt. So let's just say here we're acquiring a property for $1 million. Okay, just some easy numbers just to get the idea across here. So this is in year one. We're going to force the appreciation, meaning that we're um, adding a bunch of rooms, potentially building new units on the property, and it goes up by 35%. Okay, after the 1 year. And so now the ending value is 1.35 million because it went up. You forced the appreciation by 350,000. Okay, so this right now is just a projection because you really don't know until it's built and after the appraisal. So here the mortgage pay down is zero because you haven't, I'm assuming that it's a new build, okay? If it's an existing building, you may still have some mortgage pay down, but I'm just saying, okay, let's just assume for this first year, there's no mortgage pay down at all, okay? So then the value of this building or this opportunity now is 1.35. You go and you refinance at 80%. So I'm just running it with a very traditional mortgage here, assuming that, that it's the traditional path that we're going. You can potentially go with MLI. There's other types of financing available. Okay. So what this means is that after the first year, you're going to have an equity of $270,000. Okay. Already built into your project. Okay. So now what's going to happen is that the bank's going to give you a mortgage of 1.08 million. And basically that means you're going to get a check for 270,000. Okay, which is fantastic. So now what's going to happen is after the second year, third year, fourth year, let's just say the appreciation year over year is 4%. Okay, so then that means that the passive appreciation in this case will go up by 4%. As you could see, it's 54,000 roughly going up every single year. So that this is one of the great things about passive appreciation, is that you are actually making appreciation on your previous appreciation. This is part of that whole compounding interest. Okay. And if you notice, we're not starting at the 1 million, we're starting at the 1.35. And then the year after, we're starting at 1.4. And then the year after that, 1.46, because that appreciation is growing on the value at that end of the year. Okay. So you'll see the ending value is here. And then the mortgage pay down. So the mortgage pay down is a calculation based on what your loan amount is and the interest rates and the duration of your loan. Okay, so in this case, I'm just saying that based on some of the numbers I have, we're at 59,000 for the year, okay, which is really good. And then the 62,000 at the end of the next year and so on. So now this mortgage pay down is achieved every single month, right, as you go, because the tenants are paying their rent. So you have to have a certain level of rental income coming in. If you're paying this mortgage pay down out of your own pocket, then I would say that you're doing something, you're not in the best situation, because if you're paying this mortgage pay down on your own, it means that your tenants aren't paying enough rent to cover your mortgage pay down, which then tells me that you're probably in negative cash flow. So you want to be in a situation where the tenants' rental amounts are paying all of your expenses and all of your mortgage, all of your debts. Okay. So then you're in that positive cash flowing situation. So then the mortgage goes down by, 59, 60,000. And as you can see, every single year it goes up. And the reason for that is because as you're paying down your mortgage, more of the amount that you're paying every single month should be going to pay down your principal. Okay. So like as you look at your mortgage graph, it goes down, right? So at the end of each year, you can see that the value has gone up. Okay, so the value is going up here. Oh, okay, so then this here, so we're not going to be refinancing all of this here. So I'm just going to delete some of this. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, it was easy just to delete. Okay, so at the end of the 5 years, yeah, see, so the first year, like you don't count that. So you start on the second year and you go to your end of year 6. So now your building is worth 1.75. Okay. So I usually see a formula here, so I would just want to make sure that I'm not messing up something here. Okay, so then the formula here, let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. Okay, I see the formula now. So the formula showing here, oh, you know what? I've been asked before to make my screen bigger, so let me go, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't making it bigger. So let me go in and make this bigger so you could see it. Sorry about that. Okay, so at the end of year 5, after you've refinanced the first time, now your building's worth 1.75. Okay, so now if you go to refinance, you're going to get a new mortgage of 1.37. So now you're going to refinance, you're going to get a new mortgage. So now what's going to happen? These numbers are going to change. So we're going to delete that here because your mortgage pay down isn't going to be this amount now. It's going to be at the new, like the calculation needs to be redone based on this new mortgage balance that you have. So let me just delete that. Okay, so I'm going to delete this number here so we don't get that confused. So at the end of year 5, you're going to refinance and then you're going to have a new mortgage of 1.37. Okay, so now that means that if you pull out all of your equity at that point, you would have $343,000 in cash, which is fantastic. Okay, so that's one of the ways that wealth is made is because when you go to refinance, you're able to pull this cash out. And so this is a big chunk of money that you're pulling out. Okay, so okay, so what else can I show you here? So this is the mortgage calculation here. So this one is just, saying, okay, it's an 80% down payment. So then yeah, so then we're actually having 270 left in the deal. Okay. And then so that's our equity in there. And then the 5% interest rate, and we're doing a 600 amortization. So that's a 50-year term. Okay, so then your monthly payments here. So this is where the error came in, because I noticed that the accumulated principal here is for like almost 5,000, which doesn't make sense, because if our monthly mortgage payment is just under 5, then we can't have more principal pay down, right? So there's something a little bit off with my numbers here. So, and this is just a formula, so I have to go back and just double check that. So assuming that this is the annual principal pay down, which should be less than this, then that's how that number is calculated. Okay. And if you are wondering how to like confirm that, let me just share this screen here, and we can go, let me see. Yeah, let me do a new share, because there's lots of websites that you can go to that will help you with your mortgage calculation. So here I just typed in mortgage calculator, and this was one of the ones that came up. And so you can just go on here and use their online calculator. So I just typed in, the 1.35 million as the starting price, what my down payment is, my amortization, the loan amount, and see, it calculated this all-in mortgage. So let's see here. So yeah, see, so I didn't actually put in any of these numbers here. So let's just delete some of this. Let's see if that makes any difference. Total interest expenses. No, we're not going to worry about that. Oh, that's a calculation. So here I'm just saying, yeah, so here is the mortgage that they're calculating, and it's principal and interest. So that means most of that's going to be going towards the interest, especially in your first couple of years. Okay, so what else can I show you here? Oh, yes, I want to show you this. This is another way that I've been showing individuals on how this whole equity play works out. So let me share with you a new screen. Okay, so here we go. All right, screen 3. Okay, so here we go. All right, so on the screen, you'll see a step. Okay, so let me just run through this idea on like, yeah, let me just run through this idea on this animation, and then hopefully it makes a lot more sense on why an equity play is one really strong strategy within real estate. Okay, so in year 1, you're starting off. Okay, and let's just say you put in money, and this is your down payment that you need for a property. So you're going to put in 100,000. So this is for one of the projects that I'm working on, where we're asking people to put in 100,000. So let's just run with that scenario here, because this is what the slide's made for. So here you would put in $100,000 to get buy into this project. Okay, and then in year 2, year 3, your money just sits in there. And what we're projecting is that all of the money is going to be returned back to you at the end of the 2 years. So basically the start of year 3. So then after that, we're projecting that our cash flow, our mortgage pay down, and the appreciation is going to be around 10%. So you, as the person coming in, and all of the partners, are going to make about 10% year over year. And what we're projecting is that at the end of the year 2, at the start of year 3, you're actually going to get all of your $100,000 back. So what that means is that you get to roll that money into a second building if you want, or another project if you want. And the great thing about that now as well is that because you've gotten all of your capital back, this 10% that you've made is actually infinite return, because you have no money left in the first building. Okay, and so now what I'm saying here is, okay, well, you've already got your capital back. So instead of going and buying a car or doing something that's not really an asset, you recycle it, repurpose it, roll it back into the next building. Okay, so then in year 4, your 100,000 is locked up. It's in the second building, but your first building, you're still making 10%. Okay, year 5, now this is where you now take that money out and you go and you put it into your third building. So now you're recycling again. So now you've got partnership in 3 buildings. Okay, so then you go here, and in your 5th year, you're actually now going to make 10% on your first building and hopefully 10% on your second building. And so that 10% for your first building is every single year until the property's sold. And then now you're starting to collect on your second building. So now you're actually making a total of 20%. Okay. And this now should also be infinite return, because by your 5th year, you would have gotten your 100,000 back, and you would have now hopefully invested into a third building. So now you're in 3 buildings now. Okay, so now you go into your 6th year, and there's no activity there except that you're getting your 10% from the first building, 10% from your second building. You're not seeing the 10% yet on the third building because the third building is just being made or being stabilized. Okay, so we're just assuming that it's a 2-year period for it to stabilize. Okay, so now in year 7, is where the magic really kicks in. So now you sort of have to be able to imagine, this time scale going every single year. Okay, so now in year 7, you're going to get your cash back from the third building, and you're going to hopefully roll it into your fourth building. Okay, and then you're going to see your first building going through a refinancing. So that's where you would have already have done the mortgage, done the term for 5 years. Okay, so now you're in year 7, and so you would take that first building through a refinancing. Okay, and so that is now where you're going to really cash out, because now you're going to have that huge gain from the first year, second year, third year, and fourth year, plus any of the gains from the first year when you force the appreciation up. Okay, plus you continue to get the 10% return on every single building that you've participated in. Okay, so now think of it now continuing on to the 8th year, 9th year, and 10th year. Okay, so now at some point you're going to want to stop this and be like, okay, well, if I'm collecting, let's say 10% on 5 buildings, what does that equate to? And if it's, so like on one of the projects that I'm working on, this 10% is about $10,000. Okay, so if you think about, okay, well, if I'm getting $10,000 and this is on $100,000, and if I do, let's say 4 buildings, that's $40,000 right there. Okay, now if you can come in and you can do 200,000, well, by the time you get to year 7, instead of just 40,000 on a 10% return on 200,000, okay, that's 20,000. So 20,000 times 4, that's 80,000. That's a decent income that somebody would make on a 9 to 5. Okay, so think of it that way. If you're starting, instead of with the 100,000, if you're starting off with the 200,000 in, by the time you get your 4th building in, okay, so you've got 4 buildings, all of it making 10% potentially for you, that's $80,000 of equity, of profit that you can make year over year. Okay, so that is why I love the equity play. Now, there's another reason as well why I love the equity play, is because equity is actually taxed differently than cash flow. When it's cash flow, you're taxed at the max. Okay, whereas with equity, it's a different type of taxation. So now this is where you're going to want to talk to your accountant about this to make sure that it applies to you as well. Okay, so what else can I tell you about equity play? Okay, yes, the other thing I want to mention to you. So let me go back into the share screen. Okay, so if the project is structured properly, okay, and I say that because there's so many different ways of structuring a project. So this 100,000 that you've put in, when you get that 100,000 back, that is not taxed. It should not be taxed in any way because it's a repayment of capital. You haven't made any money on your 100,000. Like you're putting 100,000 in and you're getting that back out. So that should be completely tax free. So you definitely want to talk to your accountant about that as well. Okay, so that is okay. So the other thing that I want to mention is, okay, so let me unshare this one. Okay, if you are going into an equity play, oh, let me share my screen here, because this is one of the ways I've been able to leverage my wealth significantly. Okay, so I'm back on the Excel sheet here. So let's go back over here. So if you are doing an equity play on your own, okay, so that you don't have partners here, because it's easier to understand if you're able to talk about it on an individual basis, okay, because as an individual or as a corporation that owns this property on your own, if the lending institution allows it, you can actually get a HELOC, which is a line of credit that is secured against your property. Okay. And so the great thing about having this HELOC is that you can leverage this, this principal down payment as you're going. Okay. And then as you pay down your principal, you're able to tap into this, hopefully dollar for dollar, if you have a readvanceable HELOC. Okay. Then after your first year, you could potentially have access to $59,000. And then the second year have access to $62,000. Okay. So assuming that you're not using it for the first year. So no, that's not true. This is cumulative here. Okay. So here, your first year, you'd have 59, and then the second year, you'd have 62. So potentially, how much does that come up to? 120,000. So you could potentially have access to 120,000 in leverage that you can now go and take this money and go and do another project with it. Okay. And because it is leveraged money, and you're going to be using it for another investment, this amount here now, the interest that you pay on your HELOC is a tax deductible expense on that investment property or that investment that you've made. Okay. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you want to do a little bit more research or connect with a Smith's um, a Smith's Maneuver ambassador. Okay, so if you want a recommendation to somebody, text me or email me, and I will make that connection. I'm not an ambassador for them, but I do believe in that strategy because it's one of the ways that I've been able to leverage my HELOCs on my properties to continuously buy more and participate in more projects. Okay, so those are the things that I wanted to mention about the equity play. All right, and if you are interested in, like, if you've got a question that comes up from this, please let me know. Okay, oh yes, and I do want to do a quick shout out, so let me unshare this. Okay, so what I'm going to do as well is do a big shout out here. So it's the start of the summer season, and a lot of us have sent our kids off to summer camps and summer programs. So I just want to do a big shout out to all the parents out there who are trying to juggle working 9 to 5 and sending their kids off to school for summer school or summer programs, because I'm going through that with my boy as well, and I know what it's like to juggle multiple schedules and still trying to have time, like even an hour or two, to be focused on our work. So a big shout out to all the parents out there with summer school. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Have an awesome day.